So in the previous session, we were discussing about what are the factors I have to consider when substantive analytical procedures are used. So I told about when the transactions are large in number, when they are predictable in nature, when you have a high inherent risk, when there are lots of assertions to be checked upon, and when the source of data is reliable. And again, one more thing, when the whatever accounts that you are verifying, say for example, this is mainly applicable or this is mainly effective on what mostly on your income statements. Why? Income statement is what? It is something that shows your accumulated transactions over a period of time. So whatever transactions that is happening over a period of time, your P&L or your income statement reflects. So this kind of substantive analytical procedures, this is mostly dealing with ratios or comparisons. This is more effective on your income statements than on your balance sheet. Balance sheet means what? It shows a net effect of the transaction at a particular point of time. At one point of time, what is the effect of such and such transactions? So it is more effective when you apply it on your income statements. So now we saw what are the factors to be considered while applying or while using substantive analytical procedures. Now next is, this is very important topic, what are the techniques of analytical procedures? What are the techniques of analytical procedures? How you will do a analytical procedure? So from the start I have been telling what are analytical procedures. I have been explaining different terms associated with analytical procedure. Now we'll see what are the techniques, how you will actually do an analytical procedure. So we have n number of methods to obtain audit evidence. So actually we'll be covering this in the audit evidence standard relating to audit evidence. So there are a number of methods. One is inquiry. You ask the management persons. You are going for a third-party confirmation. You ask the creditors or your debtors. So you ask the bank. Whatever is a third-party confirmation is obtained by the auditor. You get a management representation. You get a management representation from the management that they have fulfilled their responsibilities. Or may you do a inspection, or you check the arithmetic accuracy. You do a recalculation. Maybe you do the entire thing once again, re-performance, reconciliation. These are all different methods of obtaining audit evidence. So now, coming to this analytical procedures, what are the techniques of analytical procedures or how you will proceed with the analytical procedures? So one of the first technique is a ratio analysis. What is ratio analysis? Ratio analysis is what? Computation of ratios. And what is the computation of ratios? Ratios is nothing but the relationship between two components in a financial, right? Say you have your P&L, you have different components, you have your expenses, you have your income, you have your net profit, gross profit, total turnover, purchase, everything, closing stock, everything, opening stock you have. You are finding out the relation between two such items. That is your ratio analysis. Ratio analysis is finding out the relationship between two items or two components in your financials, expressing them as a ratio. Say for example, you have your net profit ratio. What is net profit ratio? It is your net profit by the total turnover or total sales. And you are comparing this particular ratio, seeing what are the ratios that is available. You are comparing the ratios with the ratios that was there in the previous year or the prior period. So this is one method of doing an analytical procedure. Say for example, you have your working capital ratio. What is working capital ratio? Working capital ratio is how much I will be able to pay off the current liabilities using my current assets. How much I will be able to pay off the current liability. What is the liquidity position of the company? Say a creditor, he can look at the working capital ratio, how the company is able to pay off its debts. That is what. Inventory turnover ratio, that is another kind of ratio. What is inventory turnover ratio? How many times the inventory is being used or how many times the inventory is being sold over a period of time. That shows what? Why is it necessary that I want to check upon the inventory over a period of time? I want to see whether there is any kind of a stock holding within the company, whether the company just accumulates stock, whether the amount of stock that is held by the company in proportion to the sales is reasonable or not. That I have to check. So again, I will be going and checking the inventory ratio. Interest coverage ratio. What is the interest coverage ratio? Whether I will be able to pay off all the interest or interest coverage with the existing income. So all these kind of ratios give you some kind of information regarding the financial state position or the liquidity or the how the company is performing. So this is one kind of analytical procedure, ratio analysis. Second procedure is what? Comparability. What is comparability? Word meaning I am comparing the financials of that particular company with what? Either I can compare the financials of the company with another company in the same industry. Say for textile industry, I'm doing an audit of a company. That particular company's financials, I can compare with another company in the same industry, same textile industry. I can go for another shop and compare. Is there any huge variation? Why the expense is more for our company? What is the different kinds of procedures that is adopted by our company to reduce the expense? Why the profit is less? All the things I can do a comparison. So there are two things. One, I can compare the financials of the particular company with another company in the same industry, or what I can compare, or the auditor can compare the particular financials with the financials of the same company for the prior periods. Prior period, previous year, what was the financial position of the company? Previous year, what was the sales? This year, what is the sales? Say for example, this year I have a sales of 5 lakhs. Previous year, say previous year I have a sales of 5 lakhs, or say 50 lakhs, for example 50 lakhs. This year the sales is 5 crores. Don't you think that is quite abnormal? It is an abnormal increase in the sales. Then I have to go and actually go into that particular matter and see, obtain more audit evidence on why there is a abnormal increase in the sales. Is it actually there, or is it just being shown in the books of accounts are like that? So then I have to obtain additional audit evidence pertaining to that particular matter. So this is a second one, comparability. Comparability is nothing but comparing the current year items with the prior period items, or with the financials or financial information of another particular entity pertaining to the same industry. Third is trend analysis. What is trend analysis? Trend analysis is what? How one particular item moves over a period of time. That means I am, say for example, I am looking at the expense. Say for example, advertisement expenses, or miscellaneous expenses, or staff welfare expenses. Any one particular expense I am taking. How this particular expense is going over one period of time. Say for example, over a period of year, quarterly basis, I analyze how the expense is increased, or is it static, or is it decreasing, what trend it is showing. So movement of an item over a period of time. This is your trend analysis. So actually I am analyzing whatever is the account information, or any fluctuations are there, any kind of deviations are there from the expected amount. If there is any kind of deviation, whether it is an increasing or a decreasing trend, why is such deviations coming? So all these things I will be taking and checking into the so-called trend analysis. Next is your reasonableness. That is the fourth method, a fourth technique of analytical procedure. That is your reasonableness. What is reasonableness? Reasonableness means whether any relationship that exists between the account balances. I'm checking whether there is any account balance. What is the relationship between different kinds of account balances, and whether these relationships are acceptable in nature. So whether if there is any relationship that is existing between the account balances, if these relationships exist, whether these are acceptable in nature, whether they are reasonable in nature. For example, different account balances. One is your interest. The company is paying an interest of say 1 lakh. Annually 1 lakh interest is being paid. I have to make sure whatever interest that the company or entity is paying is comparable, or it is acceptable with the total amount of loan that the particular company has taken, or whatever is the current liabilities, whatever is the amount of loan that the company has taken, it should be comparable with the interest that is being paid. That is one. There is a basic reasonableness check. Or maybe how much raw material that the particular company is consuming. I can compare it with the total production. It should not be like I am producing 100 kgs, but the raw material I am using is around 5000 kgs. I mean, it can happen, but normal losses will be there. But again, I have to consider whether these two are reasonable or acceptable in nature. Or say for example, the waste that is being produced, waste or scrap that is being produced. This waste and scrap that is being produced should be comparable with the total sales or total production. It should not be more than what is being produced. Waste or scrap should not be more than what is being produced. So it should be somewhat acceptable. Definitely we will consider the normal losses, but again there should be some kind of a reasonableness. Or say for example, your sales. total amount of sales or turnover for a particular company is there. Total turnover, or say it is 50 lakhs. Total turnover. The total discounts or the total commissions that is given to the agents to make sure this much of sales is happening. It should not be more than the sales. Say 50 lakh sales is being recorded in the books means your commission or the total amount of commission paid in order to make that sales happen should not be more than the total sales, right? So there should be some kind of a comparison, reasonableness. So this is your fourth technique, that is your reasonableness. And the last one is what? Last one is structural modeling. Structural modeling. This is again a modeling technique in which what the particular auditor uses here, both financial as well as non-financial information. Both is being used. Financial and non-financial information is being used to arrive at the present day balances. I use both the things. I use some kind of a judgment in order to make sure that I arrive at what is the current value, what is the current account balance for that particular. So all these things constitute your techniques for analytical procedures. So first is your ratio analysis, then comes your trend analysis, then comparison, then reasonableness, and last is structural modeling. So all this is a very important portion because this almost every time this comes, not every time, but this is being asked, frequently asked for your exams. So be sure with this. And again, why substantive analytical procedures? Or when do we use that? Again, that is also being checked upon. Now, next is, if I said the different factors to be considered while doing the analytical procedures. One is, why do we do substantive analytical procedure? I have covered different factors. Is one is suitability of that particular analytical procedure. That is, say for example, the auditor comes up with a particular calculation or particular judgment with respect to the risk of material misstatement. So he has understood that this much is a risk of material misstatement. So whatever analytical procedure that the particular auditor is applying, it should be suitable for that particular area. It should be suitable for that. It should be incompatible with the risk of material misstatement. So that is the first thing. Second is the source of data. Source of data means what? From where the particular data is being obtained in order to do. Say the data is being prepared by the management and the auditor is doing a analytical procedure. Say he is doing a ratio analysis on the same, or he is doing a reasonableness check on the same. Is it correct? First I have to check whether the source data itself is correct or not. Sometimes the source data might be wrong. So it is not of any use I am doing further test of details in that. So first check is I have to ensure whatever data that is coming to me, that is coming for verification, that is coming for doing a substantive analytical procedure, the data, source of data is a reliable one. So when do you say the data is reliable? Data is more reliable, or data is reliable when it is obtained from a outside or independent source than those obtained from the within the entity. So when I am obtaining a data, say for example, I am obtaining a third party confirmation. I am asking the creditors, asking them to confirm whether the balances that is there in the book with respect to them is actually there. I am doing a bank reconciliation. I am getting the bank statements. So these are kind of third party confirmation. This kind of evidence or this kind of source of information will be considered more reliable. Those from an independent, outside independent source is more reliable. Next is what? The nature. So now coming to this particular reliability, I have to ensure the source of data is reliable. Third is what? I should be able to find out the relationships between the data. I should be able to find out what are the relationship that is existing between the data. And last one is, if there is any kind of fluctuation or deviation or relationship that is very much abnormal, or that is very much in variation or too much inconsistent with the with the expected value. In such cases, I have to, first is what? I'll approach the management. I'll inquire with the management. What is the reason? What is the reason there is a huge deviation between the what is expected and what is already there? And the management, and I'll analyze the management response as well as whatever evidence I have procured, and then come at a particular conclusion. Say for example, the management is not giving a proper explanation, or I am not getting the required explanation in order to come to a conclusion. In such cases, I will go for further audit procedures. So all these things are the factors that has to be considered. One is suitability of that particular audit procedure, analytical procedure. Second is the source of data. Source of data should be reliable. Your suitability, it should be suitable for the particular risk of analysis with, it should be compatible with the auditor's judgment of risk of material misstatement. Second is your evaluation of reliability. How reliable the source data is, how the, from where they are obtaining, how the source data is coming. Second, third is what is the kind of relationship that exists between the data, and if there is any kind of fluctuations, that is the fourth one, how you are dealing with the fluctuations. Management response, if the management response is not proper, we go for further audit procedures. So these are the factors I have to consider while using the substantive analytical procedures. So we saw why substantive analytical procedures, why substantive analytical procedures are used during the testing and completion phase and only analytical procedures during the planning phase. What are the techniques in analytical procedures? What are the factors to be considered while using substantive analytical procedures? And now, reliability of data. Coming to reliability of data, what are the things you will consider to check upon the reliability of data? One, as I told, it is a source. Source from which you are obtaining the information. So if you are obtaining from an outside independent source, it is considered more reliable. Second is what? Comparability of the information. You have some source data, but you have to make sure that it is correct, it is accurate. In that case, what? You compare the data with another entity in the particular same industry. You'll make sure that it is comparable. That means there is no huge or abnormal deviation between both the data, so both the information. So comparability is the second check. Third check is what? Third check is whether the controls or internal controls are implemented, or whether the internal controls are there during the preparation of such source data. Say for example, there is a proper internal control that is being implemented during the preparation or during the preparation of source data or during the preparation of your books of accounts. There is proper segregation of duties, there is proper controls implemented. In such cases, your accuracy, your completeness and the validity of the data is more. So three things you are checking here. Internal controls during the preparation of data to make sure the accuracy, completeness and validity of the source data is there. So this is the third check. Internal controls during the preparation of the financials. And the last one is what? Last one is nature and relevance of the particular information. So all the four things, starting from the source of data, more reliable when it is obtained from outside independent sources. Second is comparability. If you are not able to check, if you want to check whether it is reliable, another method is compare it with another entity within the same industry. Check, see whether there is any huge deviations or fluctuations or abnormal changes in the information that is being provided to you. Third is what? Whether internal controls has been implemented during the preparation of data, whether there are proper controls when I am preparing the data. That is a third check. And the fourth check is what? Nature and relevance of the information. So all the four things are required to be checked in order to arrive at whether the data is reliable or not. Then next one is risk of material misstatement. So what? A risk of material misstatement, when the auditor comes into conclusion regarding the risk of material misstatement. So like what other things is, he will be using both your financial and non-financial data to come to a judgment regarding that. And again, these analytical procedure, instead of applying it at the whole entity level or at the whole consolidated financials, it is better if you apply at the each component level in order to get better results. So these things will be again considered by the auditor while doing the substantive analytical procedures. Now, I think then we have actually come to the conclusion of this particular chapter, analytical procedures. Here we have a few questions that has been asked. One is, what are the techniques available as substantive analytical procedures? Then we have a short note on analytical review, or the extent of reliance that is placed on the analytical procedures. Again, what is the reliance placed on the procedures? We again discuss, just now we discussed what are the things. Now when the analytical procedures are used, the three phases, planning, testing and the execution or the completion phase, what are the factors that determine the extent of reliance that placed on the, again, lines on the results of analytical procedures, we check upon that. Then again, they might ask, sometimes questions might come as, say for example, they will be giving one particular entity, say for example a particular hotel. Here we have one particular auditor wants to apply the analytical procedures as substantive procedures. What are the points to be taken care of, or what are the things that, say for example, I'll tell you, I want to analyze one particular concept, say bill receivables I have to check. So what are the kinds of check I can do in a real life, in a real time audit? First I can check upon the aging analysis, or I can see what is the total debtors, whether any realization has been obtained during the current year, whether any subsequent realization has been obtained in cash, what is the kind of bad debt provision that has been given, whether the amount of bad debt that is there during the current year is more or it is abnormally more, there is a huge deviation of fluctuation than those in the previous years. What is the nature of collection, whether I am getting it each and every quarter I can analyze what is the amount I am receiving. So whether the total amount that is receivable is relatable to the total sales that has happened. Say for example, there is a total sales, whatever amount is there. Is it relatable to the amount of collection that has to be received by the company? Then aging analysis. So what is a normal time for repayment, time within which I might get the payment for the particular sale. So whether this particular aging analysis I can compare with the prior periods, whether it has shown a similar trend or even same as even just before, not even the prior periods, even the before quarter also I can check where there is any significant variation between the two. What is the mode of collection, how I am getting the cash, how is the bad debts in proportion to the total debtors. So all these things are your analytical procedures, how we are analyzing. One simple thing I have taken as bills receivable. So in the bills receivable, what are the things that, again, I can also check like say even the prior periods. I told I check the prior periods. Now whatever is the total debtors, the total sales, is it commensurating with the total budgeted amount or total forecast? Say the company has a forecast of this much sales, whether the total sales that has happened is actually matching or it is equitable with the total forecasted sales, or whether the total amount of expenses is coming within the budget. Whatever is the amount that has to be received, is it the same pattern on which I have been receiving the amount? Is there any deviation? What is the reason for the deviation? So all these things comes under your analytical procedures. So your analytical procedures, this chapter is over. So we discussed what are analytical procedures, what are the different techniques of analytical procedures, why substantial analytical procedures, when do we use analytical procedures, what are the factors to be considered while using substantive analytical procedures, and again how the auditor places a reliance on the data that is used for the substantive analytical procedures. These are pertaining to this particular essay. In between we defined few terms, that is what is audit evidence, what are the different qualities that is expected in the audit evidence, what are the audit procedures, what are the different types of audit procedures. You have your risk assessment, you have your further audit procedures, which is again subdivided into compliance and substantive, test of control and test of details. Then we saw what assertions are, what are the different assertions that is placed by the management, and how the auditor is testing those. So we have come to an end of this chapter. Next chapter we will be seeing what audit sampling is all about. That is essay 530. So this is essay 520. So see you in the next session. Thank you.